And are you refreshed? Good. Now what? Well, let's have some fun.
Hello, Abraham. I'm not totally sure about my question, but I have this feeling that it would be so delicious to have a broader view of the big perspective. I mean, development and expansion of thought and universe, like the big perspective.
Well, we don't have this placed very well. Do you care about your teeth at all?
Okay.
He's wanting the big perspective, the perspective of the universe, the perspective through the eyes of Source, or how you fit together in it, all of it.
How I fit together, my process in the big picture.
We talked a bit yesterday about how you could take a snapshot from a lot of different perspectives. And that snapshot would seem maybe like the whole picture, because what you perceive is what you're perceiving. And it's fair to say that in any moment, what you're perceiving is all that you're perceiving. Perception is sort of like that, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So it's helpful if someone like us, who does have a bit of a broader perspective, can explain from our perspective what we see in your perspective. But what we really like is when we're able to entice you into higher and higher vibrations, so that then you begin to see from your perspective what we see from our perspective. That's really the deliciousness that you were talking about.
Okay.
So you were source energy before you came into this body. And from that vantage point, which was a vast and wonderful vantage point, you made the decision to focus part of that perspective into this personality. So here you are, and it would be fair to say, accurate, that the vantage point that you were born into, your personality, when you were a baby, or even now, is really scanty in comparison with that broader perspective. Mm-hmm. And some might say, well, then why would you come? In fact, we would say, why would someone give up a broad perspective for a more pointed, narrow perspective? Mm. And the answer to that is no one would. You didn't plan on becoming focused in this more pointed, deliberate, specific perspective and giving that up. You knew you could have both.
Wow.
So you came into this physical body with all of that knowledge. It was innate to you to feel good. It was innate to you to feel love. And it was innate to you to explore variety. And it was natural for you to be selfish. It was natural for you to don that selfish perspective. And it was natural for you to come to new awarenesses of what you desired. That was all so natural, or you could say so practiced, or you could say there was so much momentum about that there was no question in your mind that you could come and experience all of that. So then you get here in this body, and everything is going along just as you knew that it would. Mm-hmm. You are exploring contrast, and you are, in your selfish nature, which is the only one you have because you do not have the ability to see other than through the eyes of self, you came to conclusions, new perspectives, and new desires. And through sifting through contrast, you launched all kinds of deliberate and indeliberate ideas of what would be better from your vantage point. Now the source, this non-physical source from which you came, has been with you every step of the way in that. And so each time you came to a new conclusion about what was desired, Source came to that same conclusion about it as well. rode the rocket of desire. And then there was the first potential split, too strong of word, separation, too strong of word, vibrational variance, pretty good, between what Source now knew and what you know. Because if you're like most humans, in knowing what you don't want, you automatically know what you do want, and Source goes right there. But most humans beat the drum of what they don't want longer, which causes more of a separation. Now, why do you do that? Mostly it's because you haven't yet convinced yourself that you get to choose and that it will come. Because your parents sort of trained you that you have to justify why you want what you want by beating the drum of what you don't want. Now that's a sort of simplistic layering there, but for the most part, that's what happens. Humans don't just ask with an expectation of getting what they want. And the reason that you don't is because instead of being really aware of the way the energy feels as it moves through you, most of you got really focused upon the things that were surrounding you of a physical nature. You might say, in fact, we do say often, that your ability to translate vibration into physical reality is done so well that you've convinced yourself that the physical reality is the only reality because it's tangible, it's more blatant, colors are more, fragrances are more, feelings of textures are more, everything is more as you translate it through your physical senses. And it's as you, Source you, knew it would be. You knew you would come into this tactile experience and that you would revel in the depth and breadth of it. So here you are, sort of banging around. You're acclimated. You're making your statements of desire. But some of you, in fact, most of you, get further and further from the realization that you held when you first came. Now, what did we just say? Let's put it in the context of the momentum that we've been talking about here. So there was a huge momentum going on in non-physical prior to your coming into this physical experience. In other words, you were born because of this extraordinary momentum. Then you got here, and let's just say, it's maybe the easiest, best way of saying it. Your physical environment distracted you from that known momentum. Doesn't that sort of make sense in light of what you've been talking about? You saw enough things that you didn't like that made you stop feeling worthy. You saw enough things that you didn't like. In other words, you began through the very contrast that you knew would serve you. By introducing contrast into your experience, you slowed your momentum. Your momentum, oh, we like where this is going, don't you? Your momentum of well-being, your momentum of worthiness, your momentum of knowing that all was well, your momentum of knowing the eternal nature of your being, that got watered down and slowed by the very nature of the contrasting experience, which is why our friend earlier today said, why? Why would we come into this physical experience? If it's so good there, then why come here? That's what she said. It's a really good question. Because you knew that you could come and introduce more variety to the mix and still maintain your momentum. You knew that you could sift out of the variety new desires and that Source would ride the rockets of that momentum. You knew that you were born with guidance and that you could discover the alignment with the momentum that felt the best. You knew that you could figure it out step by step. And you knew, most of all, you knew it would be fun. Most of all, you knew that it would be delicious to do just that. Most of all, you knew that this momentum is wonderful and that you could achieve it any time that you wanted, but you wanted to take that subject and bring it to that momentum, and that subject and bring it to that momentum, and that subject and bring it to that momentum. You wanted to take all of the subjects that you might find interest in and purify them and clarify them and lay new pipes about them and bring them to that momentum, because you knew that if you could find a subject and a vibrational alignment that was in harmony with who you really are, with resonance of who you really are, that you could introduce personally through your own vessel the vibration, the energy, the beingness of source to specific subjects that were of interest to you.
Wow.
And you said, ooh, this could be good.
Yeah.
So what's our part in all of this? Well, we get to be there with you. We are the inspiration of so much that you feel, as you are the inspiration of so much that we come to know. In other words, we can't separate the you part from all of us, from the us part of all of us. It's all about the focus that any aspect of us chooses at any point in time. And we'd like to say to you, we always choose the highest frequency because we've got more momentum going about it. And isn't it logical that we would? We said, we'll stay here in the greater momentum. We'll stay here in the greater momentum. We'll keep the light on. Oh, wait, that's a commercial. We'll keep the light on. We will keep the signal beaming brightly. And you said, all right, I'll go and I'll explore and I'll find new subjects that I would like to bring into the light. And we say, yes, you go and we'll be right there with you. And we promise that if you care about the way you feel, you will never lose your way. And together we'll take thought and experience and exposure and expansion beyond that which it has ever been before. And it will be so fun in the process. That's the best description of the big picture.